Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people, and talking to the stars of brand new shows. 40 is Not the New 20 is the brand new production at the Riviera Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. It stars Matt Kazam, and he joins us on the phone now, live from Sin City. How you doing?
I am well. Sun is shining out here in the desert. It's not cooling off. Things are really good here. Thanks so much.
Yeah, stop rubbing it in. It's autumn here in England. It's going to be about -2 within any second.
Yeah. Well, we have to put up with August, and then you guys never have to worry about 123-degree weather. So, the rest of the year, it's beautiful here, but we do have our bad times too.
I suppose being a comedian in Las Vegas is better than being a singer or a dancer because you're less reactive to the weather. I know the singers really struggle, don't they, with the heat?
Yeah, absolutely. We went to go see Boys to Men last night, which is very 40s, not the new 20, kind of took me back to 1991. But one of the singers were there. He was having some allergies and some problems with his voice, and I do 300 shows a year. So let me tell you, a couple times already in the first 5 weeks, I thank my sweet God, that I wasn't a singer or had to blow a saxophone or something like that, because though I put a lot of physicality into my show, it is nothing compared to those guys, and I never really connected that probably it is the climate and the weather out here, and plus you have 100,000 disease germ-infested gamblers touching you all the time. That doesn't help.
I was lucky enough to see that Boys to Men show as well at the Mirage, and it's stunning. Their harmonies are extraordinary, aren't they?
Amazing, just absolutely amazing. And they even talk about it. They said, at one point we were filling arenas, and we went away for a minute. We came back, and the music business changed, and it really has never been the same. I use music a lot in my show, mostly in the opening right now. But I kind of start off with Simon and Garfunkel, because I was born in 1968, so I go from 1968 to 1991 and end with Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer, and I go, there was music made after that, but would you want to hear it? And last night at Boys to Men, I realized, they really might have been the last group of their kind ever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can even market that stuff anymore, but they were fantastic.
Listen, let's talk about you, Matt. I have sympathy with you in a way, as well as admiration. You've been doing it for 25 years. You've been on the road as a comedian. It's an exhausting, tiring life, isn't it, being a stand-up comedian on the road? Are you glad to be in one place finally?
So happy. That was the goal, long term, was either, figure out a way to kind of get off the road. And in order to get this show to Vegas, I actually have to go deeper and be on the road more, just to work it out. And the way I found the demographic to work with the material was at golf courses, which, is very big in your part of the world, too.
Yeah.
But that's where 35 to 65-year-olds and people hang out. And so in order to do this, I kind of had to go deeper into the beast. But I knew on the other side of this was going to be this amazing life that I dreamed of after 25 years, which is to sleep in my own bed every night, to perform every night in a town where every night is Saturday night. New crowds come in every single week, talent still matters. And we just had a little 2-month-old baby, so the timing couldn't be perfect. I get to see her every day, and she's awake usually when I get home from my show, and I get to put her to bed. And
wow.
It's just a dream come true for I think any entertainer, but for me, it's after 25 years. I thought it was going to be cruise ships. I thought I was going to have to be out in international waters half the year. So, I just feel really blessed with this opportunity.
And it's a tough business and getting tougher. We should say that I'm calling from England today. You're in Las Vegas. I'll be over to see the show in the new year. And to get your own room in Las Vegas is almost impossible. I have to ask, why you? Why did they pick up this show and turn down 1,000 others?
Well, you got to get naked pictures of the right people. That's a tool in the business model. No, it's actually funny. I'd been here before in 2000, 2002, and did a little production for Palace Station, which is part of the Station Casinos chain, as I'm sure you know. It just was something. I saw my first comedy show at the Riviera when I was 10 years old. My father was a gambler, and took me around to all the shows. Bill Cosby made me a banana split when I was 6. I saw Don Rickles and Shecky Greene and Joan Rivers and all these kind of people. So I kind of always knew how to work in this casino environment. So, I had a leg up on other performers in that sense, whereas, I know the bottom line is about gaming, and we want to make them have a good time. And, even when I was at the Station Casino, they did some studies about how my act affected the outcome of how quickly they would gamble, and they found out people would gamble in 9 minutes after they saw my show. And so I kind of had this history, but now flash forward to this time, the guy who was at Station Casinos is now running the Riviera, and he remembered all that stuff, and then once I went through with the idea, he goes, no, I think I can market this, and it's great. And I think that's also the marketability of the show, the fact that, it's not just a comedy show, which could be hit or miss, that this was written, with the idea of people laughing 400 times and taking them back to this time when they were kids and feeling this and marketing the nostalgia aspects of it. So, why me? Every comedian always there said, why him? I'm funnier than that son of a bitch. But, I think it's all the other things that happened in my life that were kind of prepared me for this time.
You're a New York native. It's interesting how people in the West End always say, you want to be careful doing the West End because there's nobody from London goes there. I mean, Las Vegas is a transient town, isn't it? It's not really full of anybody other than tourists. So how does it compare doing a show in Las Vegas to somewhere like Detroit in the Midwest or New York or a city where people are actually from there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you can get when you get everyone from the same town, then you can kind of get all their minds going in the same direction, and it's easy. I do something called crowd fusing, which is kind of fusing the crowd into one being of energy before I even start the show. And it's very easy. Like if you're in Detroit, you make fun of the city of Detroit, or you're in New York City, you make fun of this. And but here, they're not even all from America. Mostly, I'd say half the crowd is international, and the other half is from everywhere else. But they do all have Vegas in common, and so, I would say I do the jokes I have to do, get jokes I want to do. But and if you do take the time to understand that this audience is different than the other ones, that's a very insightful thing that you know. But most comics just think they can just do their act and wonder why it kind of falls flat sometimes. And you also have to understand the beast that you're inside has been designed to distract them.
Right.
Everything built in a casino is geared towards getting them to gamble and not be able to stay put and be able to run towards the lights and the sound. So, you really got to take your time in the beginning of the show to kind of turn it into an audience. But if you do a few little things in the beginning and understand that they all don't have anything in common other than Vegas and this Vegas experience, you're able to kind of turn them into a whole group of locals, that you would find in the regular comedy club. At least I found that. Now, for me, it's about a lot of different things. It's about timing, and it's about likability, and it's about cadence, and it's about rhythm. And my act is more like jazz to me than it is a stand-up act, and especially this one-man show, because I'm able to stretch it out and make it become whatever I want, as opposed to having to cram it into the generic comedy club model, which is not necessarily about taking them on a journey, as opposed to just selling them some drinks and some nachos and getting them in and out as quickly as you can. This is a show, and I love performing it.
As you say, it's a town for people with ADHD. You're on stage for 70 minutes. You've got to knock it out of the park. How tricky is that, being funny by yourself, on a stage by yourself, with the responsibility of only yourself to make them laugh for 70 minutes?
Yeah, as long as I don't have to pee, because 40 is not the new 20. As long as I don't have to pee too early in the set, I'm usually okay. But sometimes I have to pee, and I look at the thing and I go, I have 65 more minutes. I find a way to kind of jiggle and move it around. But it's a huge responsibility because but I think the act has been proven. If I hadn't been out there on the road, and I've done shows in 3 prisons. I've done nightclubs, day clubs, office meetings, outside, inside. 6,000 shows that have prepared me for this, and I've got to make. I tell my wife all the time, we're about 300 shows a year, and every single one of them has to be great. But I think I've thought it all through, and I flip the switch as soon as I go in there, and it's not about me, it's about them.
Yeah.
This is not just a weekend in their town where, they went out and maybe they didn't have the best time possible. This is Las Vegas. I mean, I want to beat the heck out of them. I want them walking out of there with their sides hurting. And 10 o'clock, with a 35 to 65-year-old crowd, is not so easy. I mean, it's not like I've made this job, easy on myself, but I think I've thought it through. I've positioned the material well, so that, there's enough rewards along the way, but I'm also, can get to the depth and the point of view of the subject matter, because I am saying that things may be easier now, but things may not be better. I mean, that is the subtle theme of the show, is that, we go back to this time when we had nothing, but we may have had everything, We at least had human connections, and we weren't, a slave to our electronic devices, and, our kids weren't allergic to everything, and, we didn't have Google, we had Go Ask Your Father. I mean, you had to seek out information and knowledge, and instead of just having it just, electronically forced into you. So, there is all of that in the show, but I also wanted to have the laughs of a stand-up comedy show where the laughs per minute are there, but I'm actually saying something, and I feel like I've been working my whole life to be able to say something, and I'm not going to miss this opportunity just because the show's at 10 o'clock and they may be a little tired, because I have a skill set that I think I can provide the energy for them, at least for that. Thank God I'm not doing a 2-hour show, but I think 70 minutes is the perfect amount of time, and I can sprint through it, and it ends stronger than it starts, and I think that's been a big testament to what I've done.
Is there any way back for our children and grandchildren not to communicate with us through Facebook and text and actually have a conversation? It seems to me that we've got a generation of Mogadons who can't speak anymore. Is there any hope?
No, you know what? I hope the show, I love it when fathers bring their sons to the shows, and mothers bring their daughters to the shows, and even something as simple as, when I talk about when I was a kid in the 70s, TV used to end at midnight. Now, I don't know what the BBC was like. It probably was BBC just, it ended around 3 o'clock. That's all we got.
No, but, midnight, the national anthem came on and it all closed down. That was it.
Same thing, home with the Braves. Now go read a book, because we got nothing for you till later.
Yeah.
When I tell that to young people, they've never heard it before. Parents haven't actually had the conversation about their childhood with their own children, and so I say there's no hope based on, if you leave it up to corporate America, they would love it if none of us ever speak to each other again and just use their devices and that sort of thing. But I think if we take responsibility for this and actually have these conversations, we could save ourselves. I don't think we have changed. I think the world has changed, and certainly our world and how we do things. And it certainly is easier. Let me tell you, the cell phone is amazing. I even talk about it on the show. I go, but you cannot appreciate the cell phone unless you know from whence it came. Unless you know the humble beginnings of the big cylinder block cell phone, and I pick up the stool and I carry the stool around and I tell the kids, this is exactly how it was. You on the cover of a magazine, if you had this phone, you were a star, And but if you think this is how it's always been, everything that we know now, and I don't know how old you are, I didn't even ask, but you sound like you might be around my age, around 40 or something.
Yeah, a bit less, but not far off.
A little bit, but so you remember all this time, but everything that we know was built in our lifetime. Our parents had a car, we had a car, but everything else, it's just been invented.
I remember our first computer being delivered to school by a crane. They had to winch it in through a window, and it took an entire room for it. Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no. It was the TV we had. Had a record player on top, and it was the size of a coffin. And I think they planned on just burying you in that thing after the TV broke because it was so big. But even with television, there were 3 stations on TV. When we were kids, if we wanted to watch something, it was on television. There is a huge sense of appreciation for just something as simple as that medium. Because if you miss Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you have to wait 364 days. We couldn't watch it on our iPad in July at the beach because we wouldn't take a nap. We didn't have any of that. So I think if we just leave it on autopilot, there is no hope for any of us. But I'm not saying this show is going to save the world, but I think if we just start talking about things, and at least wondering why. Why is every kid allergic to peanuts now? When I was a kid, I ate paste. I'm not allergic to anything, but a sunflower seed will take baby Zachary down. And I hope the rest of the world doesn't figure this out, because if somebody wants to invade America or England, you won't have to drop bombs, just have to drop trail mix.
Right.
Oh my God, Sarge, you're dropping glue. They're dropping glue. What are we going to do? Glue is the enemy now.
You make a very good point, though. I've been saying for years, more doesn't necessarily mean better. Just because I have 300 channels to choose from doesn't mean there's anything to watch.
No, not at all. And now it's all the reality shows, which I'm sure is the same thing over today. But a year ago, they used to make shows, and now, I'm going to watch The Biggest Loser, and I go, who's the biggest loser? Me, for watching this piece of junk. I'm going to watch fat people lose weight with my leisure time. This is what it's come to.
Yeah. Well, our biggest show at the moment is the general public watching TV, reacting to TV. So there are stars at home watching Gogglebox.
Oh my goodness.
Really?
That's what it is. There's a comedian here, Joe Rogan, who says eventually it's just going to be, you turn on the TV and it's 2 guys hitting each other with sticks. It's just, they would go down to the lowest form of entertainment they possibly can, and as long as they could sell it and market it, I think they got us hooked on it. I would say, at midnight, all of a sudden, I don't know what the sound was, but after the TV ended, it was boo, just to rub it in, because it could have just went dark, but they wanted to stick it to you, just to annoy you to go, and what, boom, and it went, you'll be back. We got you addicted. We got you addicted to this stuff, and we're going to bait and switch it because we bait and switch it with great shows. I mean, Honeymoon is I Love Lucy, and in the 70s, even something like go back and look at $6 Million Man, and some of the things, characters that would be deep and developed.
And also, without sounding like Oprah Winfrey, nobody's present anymore, are they? When you go to a concert, they watch it through their phones. Nobody's actually present. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, absolutely. You can not in the moment, which I'm sure is the same thing. Yeah, I go to concerts and I can't believe that. I go, you're missing the whole thing.
Yeah.
And but maybe that is bigger. Maybe it is bigger than that. Maybe in life we're missing the whole.
Have you considered we're just miserable old farts that don't get it?
Oh, absolutely. Somebody had written something here where it said, I'm me at 45 is the perfect person to do this because it's right in the middle, whereas if I was 65, I would just seem like an old man, just complaining that, screw the world. But the fact that, and I'll call myself on it, I don't know if there's something here called Easy Pass, which instead of paying the toll on the highway, you just get a little computer chip and you put it in your car and you drive through. And I'm so anti-technology that I fought that for years.
Right.
And when I got it, I go, I was living like an animal. Why would I do it this way? So there are some things that I don't hate all technology, but I do think if I was a little bit older, I think it would just come off as, what, he just doesn't get it or he doesn't understand it. Whereas I have these many 20-somethings come up to me after the show and say, I love it, and I do say there might be some hope because even some of them get it. You know what? I hate my cell phone. My grandmother tells me about the world, how it used to be, and I feel like I was born in the wrong time, So but I do feel like me being in the middle there, where I'm just not just cursing it. I'm just saying, it's here. I believe it's going to stay. It's got some advantages, but let's just reflect on how we got here, and maybe we can learn something along the way that we can kind of get back because we have so much, but I feel like we've lost a lot too.
Just very finally before we go, you've worked with some extraordinary people. I mean, Chris Rock and Pauly Shore and Kevin James and Drew Carey, and of course, most famous of all, you opened for Robin Williams. What was that like?
I mean, it's like watching, Haley's Comet, I would say. I will never forget the talent level that he had. As far as the jokes, I could remember a few here or there, but I was probably doing stand-up 10 years, and to watch a guy like this after this amount of time just walk into a room and light it up with just his being, and wasn't that he was just famous. I mean, because that only buys you a minute or two. I mean, I've seen famous guys walk into places and not deliver, but this guy was just about performing. I mean, it was every fiber of his being was there to make people laugh, but in that also you see, as a comedian, you see a little darkness. You see, why he needs this kind of validation from an audience. I mean, we're all broken in our own way, and the audience kind of fills the gap that we all have. For real comedians in the past, now people are doing it just because they watched it on Comedy Central. It's not necessarily the same thing. But for a guy like Robin Williams to watch somebody like that. But I kind of, when I heard what happened to him, I'm sad, but I wasn't surprised. I mean, comedians are this way for a lot of ones. And but the talent on a level that I don't think we'll ever see anymore, because making those people laugh was everything to him. And I may not be broken that way. I mean, I had that inside of me too. But if you put him in front of an audience, I mean, I don't care if he was at the White House at some dinner and he showed up late, so I wound up having to go for like an hour and a half. So the audience had already been there for over 2 hours and 15 minutes. He came in an hour later after being at the White House at 11:30 at night on a Tuesday and did something to an audience like I'd never seen before. And then came in the next night and did the same thing. So consistency and talent, and a sweet, amazing guy. But comedians, I mean, we've been talking about it here. I'm sure they're over in England the same way.
Yep.
That, you got to keep an eye on us too, because funny isn't a place most people don't want to go. And
nothing makes me more miserable than the thought that the people who make us laugh the most aren't enjoying it themselves. That makes me sad.
Yeah. Man, I appreciate you getting it. It means a lot. And but I feel great. I've been with Seinfeld, and it's not the same thing.
Right.
This guy, I will always treasure that experience, and thanks for picking that up off my bio.
No, what a fabulous life. I've been looking at your clips, and I can't wait to see you live. You've got an incredible warmth about you. I think that's the best compliment I can give you. So few comedians have that.
Cannot wait till you get out here. May can't come soon enough, and anytime you need anything, just give me a ring.
Thank you so much. So go and see Matt Kazam. He's got this brand new show at the Riviera Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. It's called 40 is Not the New 20. It's basically a look back on how we've changed and some would argue regressed over the last few years. We certainly have. He does it brilliantly. He's got great energy and I can't wait to see him in May. Matt Kazam is back with 40 is Not the New 20. It's on at the Riviera. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Be well.